Alright, I've convinced a camera-shy person to be interviewed. This is the circumstance under how we know each other. We had a work training together, and during that work training, I believe I was perceived initially as a woman. Do you recall this time?
I do.
Yeah. What were your first impressions of me just at this training, seeing me as what you perceived to be a woman?
And I would say I was not 100% sure. You definitely stuck out in my mind. I do remember saying one time to you, I said, like, you go, girl. Yeah. And then immediately feeling like that felt weird. And then we just got to know you, and then it clicked. It was like, okay, yes, this totally makes sense, because I honestly was not able to go one way or the other.
Whoa. So you had, it wasn't like you saw me in the crowd and you're like, I can't tell if that's a boy or a girl. You were like, this is like a female-bodied person, but something energetically is a little different.
Exactly.
That's like I just put those words in your mouth.
That's totally what it was.
Really
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was your energy. But even physically too,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it wasn't exactly 100% clear to me, and I think what you were wearing too, I mean, it made sense, like, in a male way. But there, it wasn't male or female.
Okay,
definitely.
So I was kind of like floating in the it world, which is interesting, because I knew at that time I was often misperceived. You know, sometimes people weren't sure if I was a man or a woman. I was kind of perceived as androgynous, and in my mind I wasn't. In my mind I was clearly this man that people couldn't see, which is interesting to think about. And at that training I disclosed my transgender kind of status and stuff like that. And after hearing that, what were your next thoughts? Or how did you process that information?
I think the conversations that we had before your presentation really started. It started to make my brain, really click over to the side that no, this is a male, you know. And but it was also, I mean, you disclosed that you're physically a female at that time too. So it was, like I said before, I guess it made sense.
It made sense. Okay.
But it wasn't still I think I still found myself sometimes referring to you as a she or a her, but I was catching myself.
And that was mostly based just on this physical reality, or this part of your brain that knew I was female body? Because that's really interesting. That's what it was.
That is totally
Man.
Yes,
I think
female body.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And then maybe there was either like a cultural thing that was making you do it, or some sort of deeply ingrained thing that doesn't allow people to like use the wrong pronoun. I don't know. But okay.
And also just I think me trying to figure out like how I was going to be relating to you, whether it was as a female or a male. It was kind of like, so like part of me wanted to be like, yeah, like hey girl or whatever, but then it was like, no, that just didn't sound right, didn't feel right. But I knew there was just something about you that was like that I did want to connect with.
Yeah.
So just trying to figure out how do I
and that really puts a finger on how men and women do relate differently, or even if not because they choose to, because there is just energetically something a little different, it seems like. Or maybe not, but we'll try and put our finger on it during this little talk here. So I have returned to you in this new form of what feels obviously like a more male form. How has that been for you? What do you perceive now?
So it was interesting, I would say. Since I last saw you, every now and then, just checking on your Facebook, seeing what you're doing, looking at your pictures, and then my brain is, really starting to switch to like knowing you as a male, and then, a little bit of messaging, and like I guess the wheel started to turn, and then when we talked on the phone before you got here, it was honestly like I did not know how to relate to it. I was like, I mean, I did, but like you're a completely different person. I mean, I was having a hard time like understanding you, but but it was also just because, I mean, your voice sounded different. Yeah. But I mean, I knew it was you, and that was just different. I remember just like getting off the phone and just trying to really like comprehend, like this like new sort of.
Yeah.
But it was like it was a change, but it was also going back to that same person. But it was, I was not able. It was weird because I was not really able to understand you. But then when you got here, it was like boom, male, like.
Yeah.
And definitely when I like hugged you, it was you physically feel.
Yeah.
Like a male.
Man hug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the energy from the hug was like from a man. Like,
Wow.
yeah. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
which you have, you have different, like, energies from male and
Mm-hmm.
women hugs. And it was a good, like, loving hug.
Mm-hmm. So, as you see me and as you interact with me, and it's like that you're with the same person and you're seeing the
Yes.
same person, but there are just these like slight changes. Do you see that thread that ties it all through?
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
that's the part obviously that we really connect to, is that thread.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing, because through time everybody changes and that sort of thing. But
Yes.
and the sad thing to me, or the hard thing about being transgender, is knowing my dogs are starting to pull a little bit. Knowing that in the pre-transition form, like when you're in the wrong body or something, you can see yourself this way and feel yourself this way, but other people don't see and feel that. No matter how like much you hear about it or talk about it, would you say that it's really hard to grasp unless you're like hugging the form? Or do you think if we had more time, spending more time together, or having deeper conversations, maybe you would have gotten to this point without seeing the outside change?
I think actually yes, maybe, but it just would have been a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
The physical aspects made it become real. Yeah, since I don't see that often, like very quickly, for sure. Like you definitely come up in conversation over this past week, and it's I don't have to think. Like when I say the pronoun,
Yeah.
it's forced, like he, him, this, whatever. That I haven't like had to think about it or never slipped and said she or her.
Yeah.
So
And
it's been interesting.
Is there any part of you that feels a sense of loss? Like, oh, I kind of thought it was cool.
Not at all.
Okay, that's
No,
good.
and it's like more of a gain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what sort of the ways that we value each other's friendship? Well, do you think it adds a little, like, what kind of twist do you think it adds, knowing this whole picture?
The twist?
Or is that I don't know if that's an answerable question, but...
Well, I guess in a way it makes you more real to me.
Yeah, knowing
Yeah.
the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, and just knowing, this is what you wanted to do, and getting to know you, and I can see that it 100% makes sense. It's sort of like that sadness is lost, that, like...
Oh, you could feel a sadness, but now that you feel the lifting, you feel like the joy of my being.
Definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That means a lot that you can recognize that.
So I guess that's sort of a difference than
Yeah.
how it would have been before, like when we were hanging out. That makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Wow. Well, these are the kind of things that I wonder about, and you were able to articulate things so well, and it just brings so much happiness to be having this conversation. And thank you for providing that sort of insight and behind the scenes processing that happens inside people. I appreciate that.
Well, it's really great that you're interested.
Yeah. Heck yes.